Where was the competition of the Milwaukee Brewers? When Pat Murphy was asked that on day 2 of spring training, he said, it's keeping the boys hungry. Interesting. We'll get to that next here on Locked On Brewers.
You are Locked On Brewers, your daily Milwaukee Brewers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, everybody. Good to have you along. My name is Chuck Freimund, longtime sportscaster here in the state of Wisconsin, proud host of Locked On Brewers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every day. Locked On Brewers, the #1 Brewers podcast on the internet. The Locked On Sports Network, the #1 sports podcasting network in the world, because of all you great fans out there, all the platforms, we got you covered here on Locked On Sports. Specifically Locked On Brewers, which I host. Proud host of Locked On Brewers. Every year the Brewers have won the division title. I have been the host the last 3 years. So we're going to keep it going for a 4th straight year and keep it going and keep it going until somebody tells me otherwise. The Brewers are the kings of the NL Central until we lose that crown. And then we're not about to give it up this year. All right, coming up on the show today, Hungry Like the Wolf. You remember the Duran Duran song? Maybe you don't. But Murphy says the key of this season is keeping the boys hungry. We're going to get to that coming up. An idea for third base, Castellanos. Should we kick the tires on that? Contreras avoids arbitration, and the Brewers get a nice deal out of this. What about a long-term deal? We'll talk about that for Contreras. What's going on there? Woodruff spoke to the media. We'll get to that coming up here in a little bit as well. All right. Murphy was asked on the MLB Network, Murph, where is the competition this year? Where is the competition? And he said, well, I like to think at all positions there's competition, right? Yeah, I mean, that's coming from a coach, a manager, or whatever. I believe all positions, but what I need to do is keep them hungry. Keep them having the fight. Don't get caught up in stats. Don't get caught up on that next contract. Get the first base and we'll figure out the rest. Oh, I love it, man. That's the key. And there was a couple of times, I think Murphy alluded to that last year. Keeping these guys hungry. He talked all season long. One of the keys for the Brewers and their success is that they were a hungry bunch of guys. What makes you guys think that you guys can do well in the postseason? We're hungry. What makes you guys the best team in baseball? We have a hungry group of guys. He's used that before, a hungry group of guys, and he does. He does have a hungry group of guys. Now, the question is, human nature says, just like when you get a big lead in a game where you take the foot off the pedal and you let the other team back in, that's human nature. Or you win a big game and then you have a letdown in your next game. Yeah, you don't like to think that way, but that's human nature. The Brewers, with the core guys here, with Frelick and Turang and guys like that, they've won 3 straight division titles. And last year they won 97 games. They fought like heck to win those games. None of that came easy for these guys. As you know, there was times when they were down. There were games when they were down 8-0. It was just one of those seasons where, as I've always said with these guys, the margin of error is so small with the Milwaukee Brewers. So small. They have to do everything right. And Murphy would agree with that on that. You got to do everything right. There is no loopholes there. You have to do everything right to win a game. And they did, for the most part. We're just talking regular season here. I know some of you guys are saying, well, what happened against the Dodgers? They did nothing right. I get it. But first things first, winning the division title, going to the postseason, and getting to the playoffs, keeping that fight. And we saw that. And that's why we fell in love with this team. That's the hard-nosed play, the defense, the pitching, taking the extra base, not making stupid mistakes on the base paths, right? When a team tries to, I wish we'd eliminate the contact play, right? When the runner comes on third on contact, God, I hate that play. I think we've We've hated that through a few managers right now. But the Brewers will outthink and outsmart other teams, and that's good for a few wins. Got to keep that fight, keep that hungry, keep that hunger. That's Murphy's job as a manager, managing a team. Sure, there's some coaching. He does some individual coaching. He does more coaching than any manager I've seen ever with the Brewers. When I'm saying coaching, he'll take a guy aside and this, and he'll teach him. Managers normally don't do that. That's the coaching staff that does that. Murphy will pull guys over, and we've seen some of this during games that's been on TV. When a guy makes a mistake, he's pulled guys over and used that as a teaching moment. So Murphy is not only the manager of this team, managing personalities, managing keeping them hungry, but it's also coaching. He also coaches these guys up, which managers normally don't do in baseball. I was also asked this about third base. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time on third base today because I've done that the last 3 episodes. I've ranted and raved and everything else. Somebody messaged me and said, we have a month and a half to figure that out. Well, a month and a half to figure it out with the options we got so far isn't very good, right? I'm talking in I know we have a month and a half to figure it out. It's the options I'm worried about. So he was asked this today by MLB Network. What's the third base spot look like? And he said, it's going to be a challenge. Murph said it's going to be a challenge. First guy came out of his mouth, Jett Williams. Talked about Jett Williams, the infielder they got in the deal with the Mets for Peralta. The Jett plays other positions, not ideal, but he can play third base. So that was the first name he mentioned, Jett Williams. He did mention Made. He did mention Made, although he said Made's got a ways to go. Mentioned Cooper Pratt. Mentioned Wilkins. Says Wilkins has got a way to go. He mentioned Hamilton, who they got in the Red Sox deal. Williams, Made, Wilkins, Pratt, and Hamilton were the guys he mentioned today. How about Castellanos? And I know right away there's going to be a fire. Some of you guys are going to get angry just me mentioning Castellanos, especially the news that came out a little bit later on after the Phillies released him. That he brought beer reportedly brought beer into the dugout one game after he was benched in Miami. I mean, what the heck? Castellanos got a lot of talent. He's 33, 34 years old. Hit, 17, 18, 19 home runs last year. Castellanos is a good, solid player. He's owed $20 million, and you know who's got to pay that? The Philadelphia Phillies. The Philadelphia Phillies are on the hook. They thought so little of Castellanos, and they went out and got Garcia to take Castellanos' spot, and they cut Castellanos today. Man, that was odd that they waited so long to make that move, but they cut him today. So that means anybody can select him. Now, who knows? By the time you view this podcast, somebody might have already scooped him up. Or there might be all these teams in baseball that say, we don't want any part of this guy because reputations get around. And I think teams more and more want to deal with guys who are going to be a pain in the rear end. More and more, I think we're starting to see teams rather than, we don't want to deal with that guy, especially when a guy gets later in his career. They might put up with that early in his career, but later in their career, GMs and managers, when a guy is trying to find a job, they are like, well, do we really want to bring this guy aboard, knowing that maybe his role might be reduced? I'm not saying that's going to be with Castellanos, but knowing that his role is going to be reduced, do we want to put up with any of that stuff? And he's had a few run-ins, and the manager there in Philadelphia, Rob Thompson. So he's had that. But with all that said, with drinking the beer on the bench, I mean, come on. That's just plain stupidity. Why would you do that? I mean, it's funny, but it's also a dumb move. He should know better, especially a veteran. Guy who's in his early 30s, a guy who's been around a little bit. I feel like he's talented. Yeah, there's going to be a team. There's always a team that takes a chance on you. And yeah, he could play some third base. They got Garcia to take his spot on the team, but Castellanos can play third base. He played it earlier in his career. I believe he played it in Detroit. But yeah, I know he had issues, but Philadelphia rather, is paying that contract. So I would be okay bringing this guy in, play third base. He's better than all the other options, right? Before you start complaining, oh, Castellanos brought beer in the dugout. Oh, he's a pain in the rear end. Yeah, I understand that. I understand where you're coming from. And the Brewers, for the great most part, they have a great locker room. I've told you that before. Great locker room, personalities, team guys, and that accounts for a lot, right? I believe that. I guess that would be the thing, is if you're going to bring in a guy like Castellanos, if he's doing this stuff, you don't want to, if he does do that stuff, get rid of him. But I don't know. You have a hole at third base. Jett Williams, Pratt, Wilkins, Hamilton. I think we have better options. Castellanos right now, I think, would be a better option. So I'd be okay with that. I wouldn't be on here complaining if the Brewers Friday afternoon picked up Castellanos. Somebody will do that. I know some people came after me already. I put something out on Twitter earlier today, and I got a few DMs on that. Oh, no, not Castellanos. We don't need that. We don't need that at all. I don't know. I'm trying to get some at bat. Plus, the guy's got a little pop to his bat, obviously. He's a good player. I think he's trending down in his career. But I still like him. Maybe the old saying, the old fresh start thing, right? Maybe the fresh start for Castellanos. I'm just throwing it out there. Like I said, with me, everything's on the table for that third base spot. And this, to me, is on the table. Chuck Freimund here on Locked On Brewers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every day. Contreras agrees to a deal, avoids arbitration. We'll talk about that next here on Locked On Brewers. Locked On Brewers brought to you by FanDuel. Oh, FanDuel. Winter games are officially here. And if you're anything like us, you're locking in for the events you could only get to see on the biggest stage every 4 years. And you can bet on it all at FanDuel. Whether it's hockey or whatever, skating, following the winter games on FanDuel just makes sense. Medal counts, individual events, finding your angle on the sport you care most about. FanDuel gives you the way to stay connected to all the action. Curling. How about betting on curling? You have an edge on it, go ahead. Hockey, whatever. FanDuel keeps the entire Olympic experience engaging from start to finish. And right now, the winter games are on. You can be as well. No better way to follow them than on FanDuel. FanDuel, play your game with FanDuel and take in the Winter Olympics with FanDuel. Chuck Freimund here on Locked On Brewers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every day. By the way, our podcast, you get it on Google, Spotify, Apple. We're on all the major downloads, wherever you download audio podcasts. We're the number one Brewers podcast on the internet. And for those of you who are already watching us or listening to us and you want to watch us on our YouTube page, our YouTube studio here, all the Brewer pictures out there and all that, go to YouTube, search Locked On Brewers, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell. That'll alert you every time we drop an episode here on Locked On Brewers. I think some of you guys said, hallelujah, the Brewers signed Contreras. Now, a couple of things on this. It's 1 year, $9.4 million. That's just the way the salary is structured. Some of you are already saying, who don't quite understand it, Contreras, why do we get him so cheap? Well, you're under team control for the first 6 years of being a major leaguer. And The Brewers here in year 5 came in with a price. Contreras came in with a price, and they met in the middle. And the Brewers are also on this deal. Were able to have a club option for 2027 at $14.5 million. Now, this deal on that, it's just the club option. It's not the Contreras option. It's the club option. So if Contreras has an amazing season, well, he would get more than $14.5 million probably. All right. If he had a bad season, well, the Brewers would not pick up the option on the $14.5 million, right? That's just not being cheap or anything like that. That's the way baseball is struck, right? Because they play their 6 years, and then once these guys play their 6 years, that's when the contract hits. And as if you know, that's how we lose our stars. They get to that 6th year or before that 6th year, and guys are leaving. Although Adames stayed, and then if Adames obviously he stayed through 6 years and then hit the free agent market, and that was that. So, will the Brewers ever sign him to a long-term contract? Now, it's a 1-year deal, and I think that's the knee-jerk reaction on this. How come the Brewers don't sign him to a long-term deal? Buy him out of all that arbitration and all this stuff and get him under contract long-term. I don't think there's a Brewer fan out there, including me, who wants Contreras to play for anybody else but the Milwaukee Brewers. So I was watching a little tape of him hitting today. He looks great. He always looks good. He's a gamer. Everything you want in a player is Wild Bill, right? Wild Bill's going to do everything for you. Everything. And when he's not catching, he's going to still be in the lineup. He never wants to come out of the lineup. Just a terrific. I mean, this was just such a big mistake by the Braves. They get rid of him, and the Brewers getting Contreras a few years ago. I was just stunned on that day. And Contreras is even better than I thought he would be. I knew he was good, but I didn't think he'd be this good. And he's been fantastic, right? The hand, we'll find out during camp here how the hand is doing. But the Brewers would love to sign him to a long-term deal. Would love to. But I think it's Contreras who was asked last couple of seasons. He wants to wait. He wants to wait. And obviously, by waiting, and he continues to produce it, his numbers go up. If he has a fantastic season this year, well, he's going to hit the free agent market, and he's going to hit a gold mine right there, right? Probably price himself out of what Milwaukee's going to be able to pay, and we're right down that road again. Like I said, next summer, if the Brewers aren't in contention, we could be faced with having to trade Contreras again during the season. At the trading deadline, could happen this year. That is, if there was even going to be a 2027 season, which I'm going to talk about a little bit later on here in the podcast. So Contreras, 1 year, $9.4 million, club option for 2027, if there is a 2027. And trust me, I have my doubts. $14.5 million. Brandon Woodruff talked to Todd Rosiak and a few other members of the media, but I watched it off Todd Rosiak of the Journal Sentinel. I saw it on his Twitter today. So yeah, I'm going to give credit. I'm not going to say I just saw it. Rosie put it on there, and we're going to give him some credit. So anyway, he says his lat feels fine. Woodruff's, not Rosiak. I'm sure Rosiak's lat feels fine, but Woodruff is the one we really care about. His lat feels fine. He says he's fully healed. Feels like he's finally coming into camp feeling that he's not on a pitch restriction or any of that BS. He's ready to go. Last year, he came in, he was throwing 20 pitches, doing this and setback and getting back on the mound and throwing 30 pitches and all that stuff. Woody says none of that. He's ready to go. He is the actual longest tenured Milwaukee Brewer right now. Came up in 2027. This is his 12th year with the franchise. He was drafted by the Brewers, his 12th year with the franchise. 12 years he's been there. He's been with the parent club, the Brewers, since 2017, but he's been in the minors. He's been the entire organization for 12 years. Wow. He says he's to the point, though, with that shoulder where he doesn't think about it. Right? I mean, he's coming off the shoulder surgery from a couple of seasons ago, but he says right now he doesn't have to think about it. Now, it did bother him at the end of the season last year. That's why he was shut down. The velo was dropping, and they shut him down. But he says he doesn't have to think about it right now, which is good. He also said 96. I hope it comes back. 96 miles an hour, he meant. But he says he knows how to pitch, and he does. He wasn't pitching at 96 last year, but he did a few things out there, and he knows how to pitch. So I fully believe and have confidence that if 96 never comes back, Woody is going to still be able to get it done. All right. As I mentioned, I'm going to talk a little bit about that salary cap, what it means for the Milwaukee Brewers coming up. As December 1st of later this year, I don't even want to think about it, but I'm going to address it anyway. We'll talk about that next year on Locked On Brewers. Locked On Brewers brought to you by Indeed. Hiring just not about hiring the right person willing to take the job. It's about finding the right person, the right background, someone who can actually help your business moving forward. If you want candidates who can match what you're looking for, well, then you got to go to Indeed sponsored jobs. That's the right move to make, because instead of hoping that right person walks through that door and he's the man, well, Indeed helps you match with quality candidates by boosting your job to the listing to the people who fit your specific criteria, skills, certification, location, all that. Indeed sponsored jobs can do that for you. If I was hiring, I don't want just a warm body walking in here. I want somebody who's going to do the job for me. I'm going to pay him. I want him to give me the results, right? And there's a whole lot of it that goes in, and Indeed does a fantastic job with all its data. And here's a stat. The minute I've been talking to you, according to Indeed data worldwide, companies like yours have made 27 hires out there on Indeed. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching, more time interviewing candidates. Check off all the boxes with your candidate with Indeed sponsored jobs. Indeed sponsored jobs. All right, Chuck Freimund here on Locked On Brewers. And by the way, our Everydayer Club, did I tell you about that? The Everydayer Club, the Discord, where we're going to talk one-on-one during the season. Also, we're going to have commercial-free. We've already started that commercial-free audio podcast. You know, you get the commercials right now on the audio platforms, but if you subscribe to the Everydayer Club, you get it commercial-free. Commercial-free, plus other amenities as well. I got a link downstairs here in the notes section. Check it out, whether you're watching us on YouTube or on any of the platforms. There's a notes section, a description, all that. You'll see a Everydayer Club. Check it out for yourself. See if it's something you might want to get to with Locked On Brewers, the Everydayer Club. Now, what I'm seeing out there is that baseball owners come December 1st, and that's the magic date where we're going to see a lockout, that the owners meet at this time. They want this salary cap. They're tired of things, the way the salaries are going. And, you know, the rich get richer, and the teams like Milwaukee still wins. That'll be the argument for the Players Association, right? Well, Milwaukee still wins despite their not having a salary cap. But the owners are going to want this salary cap, and they're prepared to really stand their ground this time, much like they did for the most part in 1994 when we had the midseason strike and Bud Selig, who was the commissioner at the time, canceled the World Series, and it would have spilled over to the following season. It did for a little bit, but they eventually, owners gave in. This time the owners say they're not giving. The word is the owners aren't giving in. Now, here's where I think it benefits Milwaukee. Well, it benefits two ways. The salary cap for $240 million, it benefits teams who the Brewers are competing against to get to the World Series, like the Dodgers, that they can only spend up to $240 million. Now, the floor, there's a certain amount of money you have to spend, which is $160 million, according to the owner's proposal that they're going to throw out there. That's what the owners are looking for, $160 million, which is great, which would force Milwaukee to spend more money. So this works out wonderfully if it happens. That's the skepticism in this. $240 million, that's the cap, but the floor is $160. And I've always said the Brewers should be spending upwards of $155 and $160. And that should keep going up with the way prices keep going up and salaries keep going up, right? So 160 on the floor, 240. God, I don't want that lockout next year. I don't. Baseball, I feel, is rolling along right now, right? It's rolling along. I think there's so much interest in baseball. It's I don't want to say it's at an all-time high, but it's certainly better than it was a couple of years ago. We're getting the ball rolling on baseball. Certainly it's more since I took over this podcast 3 or 4 years ago. There's a nationwide interest in baseball. It's more than just a summer of entertainment. People are following the pennant races. Yeah, some of the national talk shows still don't talk about baseball. I get that. But the players want a piece of that TV pie. I think that's what the deal is. That's part of it. So we'll talk more about that when the time comes. But when I saw the $160 million floor, I thought, man, Brewer fans will love that. All right, Keston Hiura, our old friend, signs a minor league deal with the Dodgers. I'm laughing because it's with the Dodgers, but because the Dodgers get everybody. But Keston Hiura, persistence on that guy. He's going to make it. He wants how about more power to the guy? I mean, he could have easily retired. We've seen that before. First round pick, 9th overall in the 2017 draft. Came up in 2019, was terrific. Had defensive issues, stopped hitting, made trips back and forth to AAA. Finally, never made it back from AAA, and he's been with a few different organizations since then. Always a good guy. Well, all the Brewers are good guys, really. They are. The deal within the clubhouse, Keston was, I hope, for his sake, I hope he somehow figures this out and he eventually breaks that door down and stays in the majors. Because Keston Hiura, it couldn't happen for him here. The Brewers gave him every opportunity, and there's other organizations that thought maybe we'll give him a shot, and it hasn't worked out. But he's probably running out of opportunities. A minor league signed to let's see here. He's signed to a minor league deal with a camp invite. So he's going to be in camp with the Dodgers. I hope he makes it. But you got to hand it to the guy for his persistence. And he just won't give it up. I love that. All right, that's going to do it. Have yourself a great weekend, everybody. My name is Chuck Freimund. You've been listening to Locked On Brewers. You get it on Google, Spotify, Apple. We're on all the major platforms out there. And go to YouTube, our growing YouTube page, search Locked On Brewers, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell. That'll alert you every time we drop an episode here on Locked On Brewers. Talk to you Monday, everybody.